رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. No matter what language we are talking about, every word is born from a life before it gets recorded in the dictionary. See, every Arabic root must be first understood from the human experience before we study it as a linguistic unit. To truly understand the meanings of these roots in such a way that all the diversified meanings of the same root seem to be connected by one central theme. This will not only make us understand the ayahs in a real sense, but will also help us to retain its meaning for a longer time. Hence, the proper way to study any word is to start from the source and examine its evolution. Many a times when we are trying to read the Qur'an and trying to understand its ayahs, if we have studied the grammar to a certain extent and the surf and we are a little bit aware of it, what happens is many times we understand most part of that ayah, but then we get stuck at a word for which we don't know the meaning. So we refer to some sources and try to look up the meaning. And when you look up the meaning, looking at the meaning in the isolation, many a times we get a feeling that it's a very dry, isolated meaning which is not properly fitting in the context. Moreover, we are not able to establish the relationship. So we end up just looking at the superficial meaning and just forcing ourselves, okay, it means this, so maybe it is connected in this way. That is happening because we are looking at the meaning completely in isolation. We have no experience of it. We are just done a dry lookup in the dictionary and we are trying to fit it. That most of the time doesn't work. Like for example, let's examine this root AYN BA RA and look up all the instances in the Qur'an. What you will find is this root AYN BA RA happens to occur like 10 to 12 times, maybe, and some of them are repeated. Okay, let's explore these roots AYN BA RA and their occurrence in the Qur'an. If you take a look, see, there are like 8 to 10 times this root occurs and some are 4 to 5 times the same word repeating. So these are all the summarized occurrence of the root. Now if you see here, the first ayah that you look at here is using the word ibratan, okay, which means a lesson or a reflection. The second ayah is using the meaning of passers-by, which is abiri sabili, passers-by. So the first was lesson, reflection, then it is passers-by, same root, AYN BA RA. The third one says it's a warning or maybe a lesson, depending upon how you look at it, a warning or a lesson. The last one it says ta'buruna, which is actually means interpretation, analyzing, understanding it deeply. So if you see here, the meanings are completely diversified, right? Not only that, apart from this, there are words which might not be occurring in Qur'an, but they are using the roots. Look at this. Abar, to cross. Ubur, crossing. Ma'bar, place of crossing. Ibratan, i'tibar. Ta'bir, ibarat, motabar. All of them use the same root. So now when you look at this diversified meaning, it is very difficult for someone to understand this word properly. What does it exactly mean and how are they related? They are so diversified. So that is happening because we are doing our studies the other way around, not inside out, outside in. So what we need to do to understand this word or any word properly is to go to its source. How was it used? How was it used by the people earlier? How did it all start? So if you do a careful investigation for this root, AYN BA RA, whose past tense or the basic idea would be abara, it means to cross. It means to cross. To move from one place to other. That is the central theme. Now once you understand, once you expose this meaning that it means to cross, it means to move, it means to go from one place to other, that is the central thing. You do a DNA analysis on this word. What is that? Well, look up. How was it used earlier? So the earlier people used to say abara an nahara. Abaran nahara, which means he crossed the river. Or abaral had, he crossed the limit. So they were using it for crossing, right? So the central theme is crossing. But then what happens over a period of time? I mean, or how is generally gets used? It doesn't get limited to the physical crossing. It's that word crosses the meaning from physical to being mental to being emotional, right? To being intellectual. All those types of crossing meaning will be included in this. That's how the language evolves, right? So in the Quran you have these multiple instances. If you try to dig deeper, you will realize that there is this meaning of crossing, moving, shifting from one state to other, stages from one stage to other. That's the meaning there. So if you understand this thing, then you will appreciate that, okay, all these words that are occurring, whether it is in the Quran or in the poetry or in the hadith, somehow or other, yes, there are words which are completely different meaning, but that is rare. Most of the time you will see that the Arabic roots are connected. So if you see this idea that moving from this side to other, and you should expand your understanding, that don't limit that understanding to just the physical crossing. It includes all the aspect, whether it's mental, intellectual, emotional, meaning wise. There is a shift, there is a crossing. That's what we need to understand. So all in all, we can say that crossing from one side to other, or crossing from one stage to other. Mind crossing, which means the mind crosses from not knowing to knowing, expressing what is inside to outside using our faculties. The heart passing through different stages of not knowing to having a wisdom of reflecting. This is all carried in the meaning of the roots AYN BA RA. So now, if I have to summarize, here are all the words and how they are linguistically connected. The basic form is abara, okay, which means to cross, right? So we just said that crossing a bridge, crossing a river, crossing a valley, this is all included in that. Then the next important word from these roots is tabir. Yeah, it's the same tabir that we say khwabon ki tabir. What is that? Well, when you say tabir, basically in a dream there are certain signs, there are certain clues, right? So the person who has the knowledge of doing tabir, what he does, he uses those clues and tries to come to a conclusion. So he crosses from the clues, from the ideas, from the objects to the actual interpretation of it, if he has proper knowledge, right? That's what he's trying to do. So they are called as abara ar-ru'ya. Abara ar-ru'ya. Ru'ya is to see, right? So what did they see? So this is he interpreted the dream. Literally it means he crossed from the dream to the reality when he does tabir, right? That explains the science of dream. Then the next word is ubur. Ubur, this stands for tears. Tears. What are tears? Well, they don't just come out as any time, just randomly. No, the actual tears of emotions, they start at the mind, at the brain, at the thought, and then they convert, they shift, they cross from the thought, from the idea, from the feeling to the form of a fluid coming out from the eyes. So it starts somewhere and then crosses here. That's why ubur means tears. Ubur means tears. The next word is abbara. Well, this is the root for the tabir. Abbara yuabbiru tabiran wa huwa muabbirun. So this is the asl allama family. So abbara means to interpret, to express. The expression that is called as abbara, right? Like they say abbara an ra'yahu. Abbara an ra'yahu means he expressed his opinion. Raya means opinion. Abbara ra'yahu. Or abbara ru'ya means interpret the dream. So this is the expressing it, expression. That's what is included here. You cross from the science to the actual meaning of it. Then there is this common word which occurs multiple times in Quran, ibratan. What is ibratan? They usually translate it as a lesson, But what does it actually mean? Literally, it means to cross from what your eye have seen to the deeper truth that your heart and intellect should reflect. So we see the signs there, something happens. Okay, why did it happen? Just because of this. So we take a lesson out of it. So we get the wisdom out of it. So we cross from seeing to understanding and reflecting. That's where the lesson meaning comes. Is actually reflecting also. Right? It's reflecting also. The next word is mu'tabar. I'tabara ya'tabiru i'tibaran. Right? So itibar and mu'tabar. So what is this mu'tabar? Well, mu'tabar means the one that is considered, the one that is regarded. So what has that to do with the crossing meaning? Well, what happens is you look at someone, you study him or her, or you just have some experience with him or her, and then you realize that this person is that, he has this attribute, he has that positive aspects. Okay, so he is good in this, maybe he is not so good in this. So this is what we are doing by looking through our eyes, analyzing that situation, and then crossing and coming to a conclusion. So in this case, eventually it means there is a mental crossing from the evidence to judgment. So we make a judgment. This person is reliable. Oh, that one is not reliable. That's a motabar. Ye motabar hai. Ye motabar nahi hai. So what happens? You look, you gather, you analyze from the evidence, and then you judge. That's where you get motabar. Crossing from physical thing to coming to a judgment. Right? So the crossing is still there. You just cross from evidence to judgment. Evidence to judgment. Hence, etabar means to be considered or to be regarded. The next word is ma'bar. Now this ma'bar, those grammar students, they already know it. Ma'bar is on the format of masjid. So masjidun, masjidun, masjidatun. What does it indicate? It's a zarf. That format indicates zarf format. Ma and then the masjidun, masjidun, masjidatun. So this one is ma'barun. So ma'baran would be what? The place of crossing. It could be a bridge, it could be anything from where you cross from one part to other, one part of valley to the other. So that would be ma'bar. Ma'bar is the place of crossing. It's a zarf, right? The next is ibarat. Oh, ibarat is expressions, right? So you have certain things in your mind, and then you need to express it in the form of words, in the form of emotions. You express it. So they come from your feeling to actually in the forms of the word, and you express it. That's why it is called as ibarat. So the crossing is from mind to tongue. Then you could say there is a word me'bar. Now me'bar, again, those who are studying the grammar, they know that this is the ism ala format. This is the ism ala format, which means the tools or the instruments used for that particular action. So in this case, it will be tools or instrument used to cross. So whatever tool is used, that will be called as me'bar. So these are all the words that are related to AYN BA RA. So all these manifestations have one common underlying idea. And what is that? Making the intellectual journey from the apparent to the intended. That is the one single idea in this. So means every derivative of the abara preserves the idea of moving from one state to other. So if you understand most of the words of the Quran in this way, look at the root of it, go to the bottom of it, do the investigation, see what connects all this. And once you do this, you cannot imagine that, okay, you will be forgetting this interpretation of the word, or the next time you come up this word, your mind will automatically try to stretch to see what is crossing here. what is that that changes from one stage to other, what is that that is shifting from one point to other, and definitely there will be some idea underlying it that you will realize automatically. So imagine that if you study 100 200 words of the Quran in this way, you will really enjoy the reading of the Quran, because it is only those specific words at times which make our deeper understanding of Quran a little bit of stagnant kind of a thing. But once you master those vocabulary and you have the support of grammar and sarf, then it's the true experience of reading the Quran and enjoying it and imagining all those situations in a realistic way and not just a dry reading of the Quran. May Allah help us to understand His words in the proper and in a way that is due for it, okay, and make us from the people who really love not just the recitation of the Quran but the understanding of the Quran in the proper and a deeper way. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum.